All right, everyone, welcome to this week's interview. Today, we are sitting down with Lee Weeks. He is an author, a journalist, an editor, a communication strategist. I'm reading off the book right here because this is pretty much how I found him. He's author of Sundays at the Track, an awesome book. And I guess enough from me. Lee, how you doing today?
Yeah, doing well, Brandon. Great to connect and find that we both exist on the globe together.
Yeah, it was awesome. I was at the Roval back in October, and I saw these little like hero cards in the gift shop, and I love hero cards, so I picked it up and I was like, "Oh, cool! Here, the Corey LaJoy hero card." And then I started looking in the back, and I was like, "Man, this seems like a really cool book." So I was really excited when I got it. Couldn't put it down. So it was an awesome book.
Well, that's great to hear. I've been curious as to how those hero cards are working. They're actually going to start disseminating those again at Daytona,
Mhm.
and they've added another the cards right now. They have one for Michael McDowell, Chase Briscoe, William Byron, and they
Mhm.
added a fourth one this year. Joe Gibbs has got one that'll
Oh, okay.
be passed out.
Well, that's awesome. Well, for all the collectors out there, you can add that to your collection, the Joe Gibbs one.
There you go.
So jumping into it, Lee, so how did you get into writing?
Yeah, I it's kind of a passion out of high school. I had one goal leaving high school, and that I wanted to go to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I grew up my teenage high school years in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Only applied to one school because of their journalism program. It wasn't because I was a Tar Heel fan, because I grew up an NC State Wolfpack fan. So I had to swallow hard and say, okay, this is about my future. And was there long enough to get brainwashed to be a Tar Heel fan too, I must say. But yeah, went there to journalism school and came out. So kind of started it as a career,
Hmm.
working for my hometown newspaper in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and did that for a number of years before eventually going to seminary and going into full-time local church ministry and then realized that I could continue to write through a lot of Christian platforms
Hmm.
and did that for a number of years as well, which has led me to now editing a magazine with the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association called Decision Magazine.
Awesome. Um, do you remember what your first racing experience was?
You know, I remember as a child wherever we were on Sundays, visiting family, friends, the race was always on in the background, right? As a young kid, I wasn't that interested. I was wanting to go play football or climb a tree outside or do whatever. But really, racing, motorsports, NASCAR specifically, kind of
Mhm.
got on my radar with the Dale Earnhardt Sr. tragedy, the Daytona 500 there. And man, that race, when he's running third behind his son and Michael Waltrip, you know,
Mhm.
and kind of seeing that unfold. And actually, I did an article. I was writing for a publication uh, then and did an article and learned about all these ministries that are in
Yeah.
NASCAR and that really came to light and how they were ministering to NASCAR fans in the wake of you know, Earnhardt's untimely death.
Hmm.
So from I'd say the early from 2001, I guess I've kind of been a fan and followed the sport,
Yeah.
you know, um, closely. Had a great experience last was it last May or the May before? Uh, had never been to a NASCAR race. I'd only seen them from the TV, but got to go to the Coca-Cola 600 at the Charlotte Motor Speedway a couple years ago as part of really kind of some research for my
Yeah.
book, and had a pit pass and just got to roam pit road and was amazed how freaking close they let me get, to what was going on. I mean, I'm on the
Mhm.
other side of the wall, but I mean, I'm really close to the wall. And it was just amazing to be a part of that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know. I went last year to one of our local short tracks, do this in media, and they don't really give you any directions. So the first hour I was there, I just watched other people, and I thought, okay, I'll wait to see if that person gets yelled at or someone yanks them back so I'll know where I can go. But yeah, whenever I take someone for their first time to a race, they just think it's crazy because they're used to like, in football, you don't get that close to the field or you don't get to, do that. So in NASCAR, they're like, are we allowed to go here? Or
Exactly. Yeah. And then, getting to roam through the garages, and it's just, NASCAR is such a fan
Mhm.
friendly environment and family friendly, where they really do the teams try to connect with their fans in an amazing way. Real quick story. I know you said I forgot one of my first jobs early on as a teenager was cleaning up a uh, a dirt track. There was
Mhm.
a dirt track in my community called Ace Speedway
Mhm.
over near Elon College, Burlington, North Carolina, which is still a small, well, I don't think it's a dirt track anymore, but it's a short track that they do a
Uh-huh.
lot of different racing on. And my job was to come in after the race weekends and help clean up, pick up cigarette butts and all the other trash that was around there. So I guess that would be technically my first introduction to racing.
But those kind of stories, either people love going to the racetrack after that, or they're like, I never want to step foot. You know how dirty that place is, and blah blah blah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Um, so where did the idea for your book Sundays at the Track come from?
Yeah, so that came after I had done an interview. I'd interviewed Michael McDowell after he won the Daytona
Mhm.
500, and wrote an article about him in Decision Magazine. And during that time, I learned about Michael's involvement with a ministry called Motor Racing Outreach,
Mhm.
and that led me to meet the CEO of Motor Racing Outreach and the chaplain, who's been there for 25 years, the senior chaplain, Billy Malden. And I
Mhm.
said, and I just went to Billy. I asked him for a meeting, and I said, Billy, what if we did a book full of faith profiles, if you will, about Christians in NASCAR? Now, here's the kicker. I have no connections to NASCAR. I know no one. And Michael McDowell was the first NASCAR
Mhm.
driver that I had ever met personally, and really enjoyed going out to his Front Row Motorsports garage and office complex and interviewing him there. And I just told um, Billy what I was thinking about,
Mhm.
and his eyes just got big as saucers. And without Billy, the book doesn't exist, because
Mhm.
Billy engaged and embraced the idea so much that he advocated for me with
Mhm.
every race team that I needed to get in front of. And he recommended a lot of most of all the people in the book, because
Mhm.
he's known these people for decades,
Yeah.
and he knows about their lifestyles, and if they uh walk the talk, so to speak. It's one thing to
Yeah.
talk the talk, but walking the talk is a different thing. And he's like, yeah, they're the real deal. And so he got me before every one of the 36 people I interviewed
Mhm.
for the book.
That's awesome. I know just from my perspective, like it can be so hard to get just a regular interview with someone, let alone when you're dealing with something with, people always say it's religion and politics. That's the stuff you don't, because you can start stirring up stuff. And so I feel like it's even that much harder whenever you're reaching out with someone that's like, hey, the whole purpose of this interview is diving into the good and bad and ugly of your, faith. So,
Yeah, exactly. Which I think says a lot. It kind of validates their stories for each of these people. And, we have executives, we have racetrack owners, we have
mhm.
race team owners, drivers on on the NASCAR Cup Series, Xfinity Series, and the Craftsman Truck Series, pit crew chiefs and pit crew members. All of these people, they weren't looking for this, but when given the opportunity, they didn't shy away from it, and they
Yeah.
didn't ask what's in it for me. They didn't. They saw it as an opportunity to leverage their platform to tell their story of how God and Jesus more directly has been so transformational, having a
Mhm.
relationship with him in their lives. And they were eager to be a part of this project.
That's awesome. Did you have a story that stuck out to you?
Yeah, I've said, this is like asking a parent who their favorite child is. I've spent time with each of these individuals, and I've been blown away by their transparency, to
Hmm.
your point, because they do talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, the shortcomings and the failures amid the successes, the stresses, because they're real people just like you
Yeah.
and I are, and that's another point about the book. I think the average reader, the NASCAR fan who doesn't live life in the fast lane, so to speak, uh, they can identify with the human struggles that
Yeah.
come our way because none of us are spared of those. I write in the book about how we're driving in one of three lanes in life.
Hmm.
You know, we're either in the middle of a crisis, or we're coming out of a crisis, turning out of a crisis, or we're about to turn into one. That's just how life is,
Yeah.
the ups and downs, the hills and valleys. And so if you're going to force me to pick one, the one that just stands out so much, and this was a story that hardcore NASCAR fans would have seen it unfold on their televisions back in 2020 when Chase Briscoe was
Yeah.
racing at Darlington. This was back when COVID kept people out of the stands, and he beat Kurt Busch uh, in a in an Xfinity race that was really dramatic. And as soon as, I mean, he had the lead, lost the lead, hit the wall, and then accelerated out of the wall to regain the lead and win the race. And Chase says, that's the first time I've ever hit the wall and gained momentum. But before he hit the wall and he's got the lead, he's weeping in his car, he says. He's overcome with emotion because 3 or 4 days earlier when he was at the track and couldn't make an OBGYN appointment with his wife, who was going to their doctor to find out the sex or gender of their first child, unborn child. They discovered, and he was with her via Zoom from the racetrack, and discovered that the child had passed, and they were having a miscarriage. And it was so traumatic. He left the track, went back home. They prayed about it. They even posted, and it's in the book, just very transparently on social media, on Instagram,
Mm.
the pain of that and how they felt led by God to let the world know what they were going through and just trusting his plan, even though they didn't understand it. He's putting this out there before the race, and
Hmm.
then come the race, and he realizes he has a chance to win this race. And he said he believed from that God had a purpose for all of this. And so he wins the race. First thing he does as he peels out of the car is he drops to his knees right there in front of a national audience, and prays and thanks God, and then just Chase's and his wife's ability to continue to trust
Hmm.
God's plan, even when it made absolutely no sense. That's powerful about what faith looks like, and with that, the comfort that only God can give someone going through such a tragic loss like losing a
Hmm.
child. And so that story really stands out. And I wish I could have got another part of the story in, but it happened after the book had gone to
Hmm.
press. I couldn't add it. You may recall, and you've heard, last fall, Chase and his wife, they had twins. Now they had another child, as well, and he's 3 or 4 years old now. But then they got pregnant this past year, and had twins the end of last year, which was pretty cool for them.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's just one of many stories that stand out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So to wrap it up, do you have a favorite paint scheme? Um,
Yeah, that's a pretty cool question. So I will say this, growing up, again, my granddad was a big Richard Petty fan, and I
mhm.
always loved the Petty car, the
Mhm.
Carolina Blue. Even though I was a State fan, there's something about Carolina Blue and that STP on it.
Mhm.
Well, then as I grow up, my dad is a big Jeff Gordon fan, and so the Rainbow Warrior and that DuPont paint scheme. Then, that's kind of what stands out in my mind growing up. More currently, I got to say, I was a big have been a big fan, I guess maybe more relationally with the Michael McDowell car
Hmm.
last year when he
Yeah.
was with Front Row Motorsports and was a Loves
Yeah.
car in that paint scheme. And he's now with, as you know, Spire. And he's got a cool looking car that I really like that you're going to see this year
Hmm.
uh, with it's called the Blaster.
Yeah.
Uh, that paint scheme's cool. A lot of William Byron's paint schemes with Hendrick Motorsports, and he's got several different primary
Hmm.
sponsors. They are all just the designs are really crisp and sharp. That stands out. Chase Elliott's Napa. Oh, the purple and gold on the Napa car, the number 9, uh, is really cool as
Hmm.
well. So I'm more of a I appreciate more of the design and how they are able to
Yeah.
play off of the sponsors because sometimes a sponsor can just really jack up a car, and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what color it is. It just looks like, man, that's busy or but those clean, crisp with some colors and the graphics and logos that punch off of them. How about
Yeah.
you? What do you gravitate toward?
Man, talk about the appreciation. When I first started this years ago doing interviews, there's a couple of designers I'd reached out to. There's a guy, Dick Clavelo from used to be BK Racing. Now I believe he's still with Legacy Motor Club, and a couple of other guys. And they were some of the most fascinating interviews because they would talk about how, oh yeah, this designer had to create a color. And I'm like, how do you create a color? Like
Mm,
it's like,
yeah.
um, thank you so much. I don't know if you want to plug any of your social medias or if people want to know where to find you or find the book at.
Yeah, thanks for that, Brandon. Well, the book can be found anywhere books are sold online, Amazon, the publisher, Baker Books, brick and mortar stores like Barnes and Noble, anywhere you buy books, the book can be found. So that's good. I have a website called Lee, Lee-Weeks.com, and I'm on Instagram and let's see, my X handle is Weeks_Lee at Weeks_Lee. So I'm on X posting a lot there as well.
Hmm. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Lee.
Great to be with you, Brandon.